Hey everyone, welcome back to K-Korner, the channel where we dive into the wild world of entitled people and their unbelievable stories. Hope you enjoy it, and without further ado, let's go. What I would describe in myself as goal-oriented with clarity of vision, others have described as sheer bloody-minded obstinacy. That is to say, I may or may not be a little bit on the stubborn side. The reason I made this disclosure is I found this particular trait in myself coming out strong today. I was at my gym doing my thing, managed to avoid talking to anyone, got cleaned up and ready to head home. Head out to the parking lot, jump in my car and make like I'm going to leave, like I do any day I hit the gym, with varying degrees of success. Unfortunately for me, right when I was going to leave, there was a massive SUV entering the row I was trying to leave. The woman operating the SUV also completely biffed the turn and wound up nosing past her part of the row and into mine. When I saw the car coming around the corner and realized it hadn't started turning yet, I just stopped my car and budged as far to the right as I could to watch the magic. Naturally, the late turn meant that she wouldn't be able to complete her turn into the row without hitting my car. So the SUV stopped the turn, which I very much appreciated. It was after about a minute of staring into this SUV's radiator that I realized the SUV wasn't planning on putting it in reverse. There was also no room for me to squeeze past so she could complete her turn. The word landship would accurately describe the scale of this particular motorized conveyance. Looked to be able to seat a full squad of kitted soldiers and naturally had a single occupant because America. Did she actually think I was going to back up so she didn't have to? Bless her heart. After minute 2 of this radiator staring contest, I decided a little hint was in order and put my car in park. The motors that engage the parking brake are pretty loud, so I figured this was the most polite way of saying I ain't moving I could think of beyond starting a confrontation. Unfortunately, or fortunately, for me, this particular Karen woke up and decided to take that personally. So she rolled down her window and shouted, "Back the F up, you idiot." "I can't get past you." "You can't get past me because you didn't start turning until half your car was in the row. Unfortunately for you, I'm currently unsupervised and not in anything resembling a rush. So I just sat back to enjoy my free entertainment." Are you deaf or just stupid?" "I can fit," says the Karen. I reply with nothing at all other than a crap-eating grin on my face. "What is wrong with you?" "Move," shouts the exasperated Karen. At this point, new players have entered the game, and there's someone now behind me and someone who is behind the SUV. Happily enough, the person behind the SUV left enough room to back up. Do they give retards licenses now? At this point, the woman behind me starts laying on their horn, and then shouts out their window, "Back up." "This idiot is in my way," replies the Karen. At this point, the woman in the car behind me exits her vehicle and starts walking towards the SUV. Naturally, the Karen, upon realizing that actions have consequences, discovers that her car does in fact have a reverse gear and uses it. She pulls back a bit and makes the turn this time. As she goes to drive past me, I realize she's got the facial expression of a llama, and I roll up my half-open window just in time for a lovely little wad of spittle to splat on my window. Unfortunately for Karen, she was too preoccupied trying to spit at me to realize her car was going to collide with the car behind mine. Crunch, and off she goes. The person who got hit had a little bit of damage to their bumper. I did get out and talk to that poor woman. I didn't intend for my shenanigans to impact others. She said she didn't blame me. She'd done the same thing. I gave her my email in case she needed the dashcam footage. My previous workplace was an NGO hired me to do what was deemed an impossible task, reaching to and gaining the support of several groups that are notoriously difficult to recruit. It was a pretty critical point with over 1.2 mile funding depending on it. Not to brag, but this is something I am actually expert in, one of very few in my country. I got to work and used some pretty unorthodox methods. Initially, management seemed to be fine with it since it proved extremely effective. Within 8 months, the organization moved from being irrelevant at best to having a small army of volunteers, active groups, and vocal ambassadors, and gained a reputation for being the most radical and interesting player on the scene. The thing is, this success was because I was there to cover for the organization's irrelevance. As long as they don't implement some deeper changes, this is as good as it will get. Except nobody seemed very interested at implementing any deeper changes. In fact, they began doing increasingly more problematic stuff, think public racist comments by staff members, making it harder and harder to maintain the support. I kept raising the alarm that this will not end well, and at some point, this and my less than standard methods annoyed management enough that they decided to fire me. I pointed out to my manager that if they don't want to lose all of the work, they'll at least have to recruit someone with similar experience, which is going to be very difficult to do, and very few experts on this. In response, my manager demanded that I write down a document for my future replacement, and specifically, that I make it so a person with absolutely zero previous knowledge could understand it. Zero knowledge, you say. All right. I sat down and wrote an extensive document, which included nothing but the most obvious, basic, and offensively unhelpful information. No, you cannot call people. No, not even when they aren't present, phrased as if it was written for a third grader. If they hire someone competent, they won't need that document anyway. If they hire someone clueless, well, they'll probably be able to understand it. I ended my employment there in September, but stayed in touch with some of my former crew. By the end of November, half the volunteers I recruited dropped out. The 200 people involved in one of the flagship projects just stopped showing up. The assistance network stopped responding altogether. An attempt was made to continue one of the other long-running projects, but since they didn't know how or why it worked, it flopped gloriously and stopped running after one more session. The annual fundraiser I started failed to have any relevance when they attempted to copy it this December, and only 7 people showed up. 3 of the groups decided to exit and operate under a different host, after also going public about the management being both out of touch and abusive. Oh, as of today, it seems like they lost the 1.2 funding too. I work in asset financing, for motor vehicles and land, mostly. How it works is you find a nice piece of land or a nice car, but you don't have the full asset price. We buy the asset for you and you repay us within a specific period of time with interest, and we give you the deed to the property after you've cleared the loan with us. I'm just laying the foundation here. Well, I got to work at a customer service role for the job, and a client comes to request for his deed, in this case a logbook for his car, as he had cleared his loan. I check and find that his deed is not ready, and I asked him to come back in a couple of weeks. The client didn't want to hear this as he needed proof of ownership for his vehicle, and he wanted the document in that instance. I completely understood the client, though I couldn't do anything other than escalate the issue to the manager of the relevant department in the hopes that he'd figure something out. I went to his office and gave him a brief recap of the situation, and he said I was incompetent and lazy cause. I couldn't handle the issue properly, and I have a habit of escalating unnecessary cases to him. This is coming from a guy who doesn't pick calls during working hours and spends most of his time on YouTube and TikTok. He also gets mad when you go to his desk for anything, especially work stuff. He asked me to get the client and watch how easily he could solve the issue. Turns out the client was more than he could handle cause the client started shouting at him as soon as I'd ushered him to the office. The manager started with the bees if it's the guff causing the delay and he needs to be patient. I was watching this and thought it couldn't get better. The client stood up and slapped the manager and scattered the contents of his desk all over the floor. Other staff heard and security escorted the client out. I'll never forget the looks the manager gave me after things had settled. He rarely speaks to me now and handles my escalations quickly and better. I always have a big old smile on my face when I recall this. Enjoying the stories yet? If you do, please subscribe, like, and comment. I was working as a civilian with the U.S. military overseas, and I lived off base in an apartment complex popular among the U.S. military. One morning, I accidentally hit another soldier's vehicle. Upon exiting the vehicle, I noticed that both our vehicles were what you could call a hoop tie. A hoop tie is an old car that is pretty beat up that has been passed around from service to service member, and they generally sell for $1,000, $2,000. I also recognized that I was at fault for the accident. It was a very minor accident. His rear bumper was dented in slightly, but I could hear both our cars still running. I approached the driver who had already gotten out, and he was in uniform, and I apologized and said if it was all right with him, I'd like to negotiate payment that I will pay him in cash and we don't involve the authorities. I wanted to keep this simple. I'll be honest, the accident was so minor, I honestly expected him to say, Nay, man, it's good, but even if he wanted some money, I'd have paid him. I've always been of the opinion, if you have a fender bender and can negotiate agreeable terms between both the parties, it's best to not involve insurance police. He told me he wanted to call the police. I said we could call the police or we could go on base together and I could give him $300. He said that wasn't enough. So I upped my offer to $500. He proceeded to punch me in the face. It was a sucker punch. He got into his car and took off and in the process nearly ran me over. Now I had a black box in my car, which recorded everything. I went to the provost marshal office on base, the police station, and reported the accident and the assault and showed the MP the footage, which they used his license plate to track him down. I was also asked if I wanted to involve the local authorities' press criminal charges off base. Honestly, I felt like the soldier would learn his lesson if I let USMJ, the military court basically, handle this, and I said not at this time. I was told it was an option. The end result was the soldier in question got 60 days of extra duty, reduction in rank, and forfeited a portion of his paycheck. Essentially, if he dealt with that, this would have been the end of the whole ordeal. Honestly, at this point, I assumed our little ordeal was over. Well, a few days after his punishment was decided on, which was not long after the incident itself, I was in the commissary, grocery store on base, shopping when the soldier who assaulted saw me and began to insult me. I told him he needed to clam down, that he should learn his lesson. He told me I was a coward who didn't know how to take a punch. I reminded him that I held back on destroying his life. He told me he's already been punished, and I can't touch him again. He left me be. A store employee witnessed the entire encounter, and I got the employee detail and reported this interaction to his command. His commander told me he had been ordered to not interact with me and would take action. His commander also recommended I involve the local authorities since this soldier obviously isn't learning his lesson. So I did. I contacted an attorney. The attorney was unsure if we could successfully sue the soldier and said he would need a cash payment to take the case. Honestly, I was mad and I wanted to teach this guy a lesson. I agreed. It was not cheap. To keep this story short, we ended up in court off base. We presented our evidence. The soldier in question had decided to represent himself. Several times in the court, he had outbursts. The judge ended up granting me a judgment of approx $50,000 USD. When the judgment was given, the soldier called the judge a son of witch and that the Army would cover for him. So the judge changed his judgment to $80,000, and the judge then asked me if I also wanted to press charges against this soldier in criminal court. Honestly, it was obvious this guy wasn't going to learn a lesson. I told the judge I wanted to pursue criminal charges in addition to the judgment. My lawyer later advised me that if I ever wanted to see the money, I should pursue an international hold. With my judgment, it's likely that a judge would grant me an international hold. An international hold is basically where this soldier would not be allowed to leave the country until I was paid my $80,000. Also, he told me that according to the agreement between the U.S. military and the host country, the U.S. military would honor the international hold. Basically, the U.S. military would not protect him or move him out of country to avoid punishment. Honestly, by this point, I had paid my lawyer thousands of dollars, and I honestly didn't feel like paying thousands of dollars and getting nothing for it. So I said, yes, I want to go forward with the international hold. About a month later, the international hold was granted, and the U.S. military was informed of this. 2 months after that, the criminal case was over, and the soldier was sentenced to 90 days in jail. By this point, the soldier had been moved onto the base into his barracks by his commander. I remember the day I was informed the MPs handed him over to the local authority to begin his 90-day jail sentence. Did I mention he still owed me $80,000? I heard nothing for a year, and then one day I get a call from his commander. His commander wants me to make a statement in regards to the case. I go in and make the statement. During the statement, I find out the U.S. military was in the process of chaptering the soldier out of the U.S. military. The commander also informed me that he was close to coming up with the money to pay me so he could have the international hold lifted. The commander also asked me if my lawyer would be willing to make a statement. I contacted my lawyer, who also made a statement about the facts of the case. A few weeks later, his ex-wife contacted me when this all started. I knew he was married. Guess his wife decided to divorce him. She informed that his ex-husband had the money and needed the details on how to pay me. I provided her the details, and a few days later I got the payment and contacted his ex-wife to inform her I had been paid. She then asked me to send a receipt so he could have the international hold lifted and returned to the States. I asked her how he got the money. She said he maxed out his credit and also had family help out. Also during this conversation, I had found out the Army had chaptered him out of the military. I sent her the receipt, and that was the last I ever heard from his side. Okay, so many of the stories on entitled people cover Karens and their insanity. What though if the entitled lunatic is actually intelligent to some degree? Well, I am both a massive nerd and I have the most insane story ever. You will have to bear with me a minute though, because it's a bit of a long setup. If you follow my saga I'm currently writing, then you know a bit of it, but this is a bit of a side story and a time jump from the current part of the story. The reason I'm telling this right now and not with the story is because it came to me whilst discussing horrible bosses with my new colleagues and I knew I had the crown jewel for them. As a backdrop, you should realize that in the UK, anyone who works can sign up to an appropriate union. You don't need a workplace vote, just pay your dues and enjoy the bosses give you actual right. The location for today is Portsmouth, UK, not Baghdad, as some might be thinking. Important to note in this story is old WW2 bombs from the Blitz get found regularly in the harbor area that we were in. So let us begin this tale of insanity with the cast list. Me. You can call me Lucky, which is my shorthand in all my work stories from this period of time. I'm a union member in a Burger King in the UK and became a manager in all but title because all of my managers but one was fired by the villain of the tale, Circe, the main antagonist of this tale, an evil woman and an area manager for Burger King, a true tyrant of a person who schemed and undercut everyone. She came to power by usurping the previous area manager and was trying to erase all traces of him. I'm pretty sure if I saw a news report that says she's got 5 people buried in her garden and another person being tortured in the basement, I genuinely would not be surprised based on my interactions with her. The Hand, Circe's lapdog and probably the reason she gets away with a lot of things. He has more presence in the prefix, but he's a real piece of work for sure. Arya, a truly darling and amazing Romanian woman who became an assistant manager. She plays a medium-sized role overall and one of my favorite managers I ever had simply because she looked after her team. Oberyn, a Spanish manager who probably was the reason why I had to deal with Circe on this occasion. Plays a small role but is definitely key for the story to make sense. King Robert, Circe's boss and regional manager for the area. A corporate man who is a pragmatic guy, and probably the reason I kept my job after this set of events. Pod, big butt security guard who worked in the shopping center. Police officer, a police officer who almost arrested Circe over the events of this insanity. The before time. Okay, so let's get started with what sort of workplace it is. Well before the reign of Circe, there was a peaceful undertone. Our prior area manager was a bit of an occasional plonker, but overall he wasn't a bad guy. He didn't pit people against each other and even had been training me personally to be a manager in the future. Partially because I had been there the longest of the lower staff, coming up to 4 years at that point, and I had learned how to repair and maintain some of the machines that we used. But that was screwed up when a corporate takeover of the franchise during the previous year had put a freeze on hiring new managers. January 2018, he was fired after Circe had essentially found some of his mistakes and used them against him with head office and to take his position. Well, the position of area manager in our area covered 21 restaurants and Circe had control of them, with each store having between 3 and 7 managers. Well, within 2-4 weeks, the 115 managers who worked across the 21 restaurants, 33 managers, survived her purge. They likely bent the knee, as it were, her once she took the job or helped her get it. In total, I could say that maybe 6 of the 33 managers were probably the ones which helped her make it to her breadcrumb throne, as they kept their rank of restaurant manager, whilst the others got moved out of the area or fired for insubordination. In my restaurant, all but the brand new trainee manager, Arya, were transferred out immediately, which as a strategy is terrible for good management, as many people might be looking at. However, due to my work with the prior management team, I was told I needed to help train Arya and do all the paperwork as Circe and the Hand were too busy to do things like their job. On top of all that, they started hiring new managers for me to train alongside Arya. One of them was a fellow team member, Oberyn, who within a week of starting the training said he was happy to get the training so he can finally get a better job somewhere else. To be honest, he was my friend and I couldn't care if he did leave for a better job, I'd be happy for him. The reason why I didn't just make them do it is because despite being union, these people were unknown entities to me, and one thing playing chess and poker has always taught me is observe your opponent before engaging with them. First observations of her new managers she wanted me to train was that she didn't get the best of the best. She got loyalists to her rather than leaders. Granted, occasionally there was a diamond in the rough, but very few. Most were bullies towards the staff, to which I threw them out of the restaurant personally, before calling the hand and saying never send them back. It sounds insane, but because of my union ties, it does give me a little bit of leeway with the company to essentially deal with hostile managers by asking them to leave and reporting their actions to superiors within the company. Suffice to say, after a week or two of managers being sent away from me, the hand decided to show up in person to talk to me. Probably tired of sending managers to other places so they can get passed by him at a later date. So we go into the dry store, which is where all unofficial yelling matches with superiors happen. The hand: why can't you simply do what we've asked you to do and train the managers we send you? Me: because they're a never-ending sea of jerks and idiots, it would seem. Send someone more like Arya and Oberyn, and I'll train them. Send any more of those bully types, and I'll send them away. The hand: it's not your decision who we hire. Me: as per my contract, I have discretion over who is in this store as my boss. So I suggest you take your attitude and shove it up your ass. And if you want to stay in this store, how about you do some damn work in it? The hand: how dare you? Me: shut up. You have dumped yours and Cersei's paperwork on me along with a task I am not being paid or promoted for. If you want me to run this restaurant, then I will, but you better pay me the right money, and if I need to train managers as well, I'll do it, but you better not forget my promotion with it. The hand: that promotion got rejected by Cersei a month ago. Me: then I guess someone else will have to do your job around here and train your managers. Because obviously I'm not qualified enough. The hand: hold on, let me make a call to her. And so I went out to do my actual job whilst he got on the phone to Cersei, apparently. 5 minutes pass and he comes into the kitchen area where I was busy helping. The hand: hey, just got off the phone with Cersei, can we talk in private? Me: it's busy, I'm helping, and you want me to run away to the closet. No. Anything you want to say to me, you can say it here. Partially because I don't trust your fat butt, and partially because we're doing actual work. So say it and get lost. The hand: Cersei agreed to your term. You'll be put on the list for promotion. Me: fine. But send competent and capable people. The hand: we'll do our best. Me: great, now get lost. And with that he left. 2 months later I still hadn't been promoted and I was pissed off. They had passed 4 months of paperwork, job training, and BS onto me, which by all rights they should have done. So I logged a complaint with HR, and after a long meeting with HR, the hand, and King Robert, it was decided on a few things. 1, I was to stop training managers. It was not supposed to be my job and never was supposed to do it. 2, I was to be rewarded for all my hard work with a PES 2500 bonus. 3, the hand was to be suspended for 2 weeks, no pay, and was given a written warning which stated if he ever made false promises again, then he'd be out on his butt. Whilst it is possible he made the decision to lie on his own, it's also possible that it was Cersei's plan and he can't prove it. He was her favorite pawn because despite regularly getting burned by her, he for some reason was loyal to her. Unfortunately, it was confirmed that I couldn't be promoted because Cersei had filled my file with notations that I'm a hostile person. Well played, I figure. And probably a little true in regards to her. The main story. So it was the first Friday in May of 2018. We have here in England a bank holiday called May Day Monday. I have no clue on the origins of it, but the first Monday of May we always have a bank holiday. Arya had to get in early due to the fact that another new manager decided to quit after letting in the morning staff. Arya messaged me to let me know, but said I should rest up for once as I had already done 65 hours that week. So I got in at 3 p.m. instead of 9 a.m. I get in with Arya doing her normal handoff to Oberyn, and I was going through with the staff all the basics like what's been going on. Is there anything I need to know about nuisance patrons? Stuff like that. Anyways, Arya bids me goodbye at 4 p.m. as usual, so she can go home after the handover, and Oberyn got a phone call on his mobile, minutes after she was out the door. 2 minutes after that, he comes to me. Oberyn, Look, sorry to do this to you, my friend, but I just got a call that I got the job. Me. Not to worry, we can finish up the shift and celebrate after. Oberon. About that. I'm heading off now to celebrate with my girlfriend. Me. Are you kidding me, dude? You know that means I've got to do all the paperwork? Oberon. You're good at it anyway. Also, it'll be my only chance before I start my new job tomorrow morning. Me. Are you sure you can't stay? Oberon. You got this. Take care, my friend. And before I could reply, he was gone like the wind. Well, crap. Now I had to figure out the shift from there whilst trying to figure out how to tell Cersei that one of the more competent members of the management team she had promoted just got a new job because he got the promotion. I thought about calling Arya, but asking her to essentially come in to work for free for 7 hours after she'd already gotten in early and stayed until 4 was kind of a jerk move. So I just called the Hand to inform him of the information because he was fresh off suspension. I'm sure that he needed some good news. The Hand. Hello. Me. It's me, Lucky. Oberon just quit for a better job. Have you got another manager to cover for the night shift? The Hand. No clue. Let me check with Cersei and I'll get back to you. Me. Fine, just make it quick. 20 minutes later, the office phone is ringing and I pick up to Cersei. Cersei, I'm coming over now and you better have a good explanation as to why one of the managers who you recommended be in your store just quit. Me? Sure, how long are you going to be? Cersei, 15 minutes. I'm leaving the Fareham store now. And with that, she hung up. So she was on her way. Bear in mind that until this point she had never met me in person, only over the phone, as the Hand was the only one I'd met. Suffice to say, she had made a point to avoid me until now, the best she could. I guess the Hand chickened out with dealing with me on this one. 20 minutes pass and she's just getting into the store. She makes a beeline for me and stops not 2 feet from me before poking my shoulder. Cersei, hey, why the hell did he quit? What did you do? I stop what I'm doing and turn to face a woman who's barely 5'3", probably in her late 40s and with a resting witch face that could stop Rambo in his tracks. Me. Let's try again. Who the hell do you think you are poking me? Cersei. I'm Cersei. I told you I was coming. Me. Jesus Christ, they all said you were a pain in the butt, but seriously. What kind of person does that? Cersei. The kind who's annoyed. Why did Oberyn quit? Me. He said he got a better offer. You know, one with a less crappy contract? Cersei. I happen to think that we have a great contract for our managers. Me. I've seen them. They're not. Is that seriously all you wanted to know? Where's a replacement manager, or are you doing that tonight? Cersei. I'm going to stick around for a bit and see what the hell is going on around here. Me. Well, in that case, put on your hat, bad apron, and tie your hair to the appropriate ponytail. Cersei. You do not give me orders. You are my subordinate. Me. And you are in a place where I am in charge of the health and safety of both customer and staff, which means, Your Royal Goddamn Highness, you have to abide by all health and safety policy. And get proper footwear on for the kitchen if you're going to be in it too. Can't we walking around here in 2-inch heels? Until you're properly uniformed, hands washed and gloved up, you have no business being anywhere but the office. A look of shock and rage swept her face before she snarled, pivoted, and left. 5 minutes later, coming back in uniform, including the shoes. Cersei, where were we? Front counter member. Chris, there's a guy who wants to talk to you from security. Me, be right there. Excuse me. So I go to the front counter and there's Pod. A security guard in the shopping center, younger and a little chubby, but all around not a bad guy. Pod, hey, they found a bomb in the harbor and they want everyone out of the shopping center. Me, wait, seriously. Pod, in the water. But they don't take chances. Mandatory evacuation from the harbor line, you know that? Me, all right, I'll take care of it, Pod. Can you let the customers in here know to leave immediately? Pod, sure thing. With that, Pod turns and starts informing customers whilst I inform the team in my own way. Me, all right, team, hustle up, stop what you're doing. We are immediately closing down now. I've just been told by the shopping center's security guy that an explosive has been found in the water. Those of you who have been here a while know the drill, new guys, you're about to learn it. We're to clean up immediately, shut everything down, and leave it in good condition for the morning staff. The hood cleaning will not be done tonight for obvious reasons. I want 2 people from kitchen in the dining area with Nate to get it done quickly. I want all front counter teams to cash up their tills with me and clean up the counter. Come one at a time. Circe, speaking loudly, "Hold on, what are you talking about?" We can't close down. Me, we can and we will. It is a live explosive on a seabed filled with potentially dozens of them. We have instructions from law enforcement to clear out ASAP. We will follow them. Circe, this is a private establishment. We do not need to cooperate unless compelled by a court order or head office. Me, are you saying that you are willing to sit here potentially less than 30 feet from a live explosive that has a blast radius of at least 50? Circe, well, I'm obviously not, but it will be your jobs to stay here nevertheless. Me, okay, she's an idiot, ignore her. With that, the team got to work as I started doing office close-down proceedings. Circe decided to come into the office to poke more. Me, shouldn't you be running for the hills by now? Circe, I meant what I said. This place is to stay open. Me, and I meant what I said when I told them to ignore you. Circe, you only have the authority that I permit you to have, and you know it. Me, and when you are willingly attempting to endanger lives, I'm going to go over your head and call King Robert. I'm sure he would love to know what you're doing. Circe, you'll never get through to him. He won't pick up for you. Me, that's what lying is for. I'm going to say that it's the hand. Circe, after all that crap on honesty, you're going to lie to get a phone call. Me, morality is flexible to me when lives are endangered by a reckless idiot. Now get out of my office and stay out. And again, she storms out. But not before locking the kitchen door entirely and blocking all staff a suitable exit. While she's doing that, I'm getting through to King Robert. King Robert, who is this because I know it's not the hand? Me, it's Lucky. We have a situation. We've been asked by law enforcement to evacuate the site, and Circe is trying to get us to stay open and blocking staff from exiting. King Robert, tell me you're joking. Me, honestly, I wish I was, but you can't make this craziness up. She won't do anything without a direct communication from head office. King Robert, oh, for God's sake. Has she had a stroke or something? Me, if she has no one here, it's going to help her now. She just announced to all of us that we are to stay and she is to flee. King Robert just sighed loudly down the phone before hanging up. I carried on and then I saw Pod by the front counter again. I approached him and he had a police officer there with him. Police officer, this gentleman here says that your boss is refusing to shut the restaurant down. Me, yeah? She's the crazy lady blocking staff from leaving. Hop the counter, officer, and feel free to arrest her. Police officer, don't tempt me. So the police officer hops the counter and goes through the kitchen right up to Circe. Me, officer, this is our esteemed leader, Circe, who seems to think that we should be sacrificed if there's a whoops moment today, but she should maybe get out of here. Circe, this is a police officer who can tell you why that is a bad thing. Police officer, madam, I need you to let... Circe, get out of my kitchen. You have no business here. Police officer, I'm going to need you to open the door for your staff to get out. Circe, they're not going anywhere, officer. Me, I literally just informed King Robert of this bullshit, and he's going to deal with you on this one. Circe, you're lying. He's always lying. I'm sure you've arrested him plenty of times, officer. He's a gambler, you know. Police officer, gambling is not a crime, madam. However, reckless endangerment is. So let your staff out. Circe, why should I? Her phone started ringing. She picks up, and it's King Robert. The reason I know this is because I'd been slyly texting Arya this madness, and she in turn had called King Robert herself after me. Also, the amount of rage in his voice was inconceivable, I thought. This was a man so bureaucratic that if you were to pick a color that represents him, it would be plain white. His idea of excitement was probably driving a single mile an hour over the speed limit on the way home, and now he was about to go off. King Robert, have you had a stroke or something? Let the staff out and get out of there. You're suspended for 2 months, no pay, and if you offer anything other than full accountability for your bullcrap today, then I will fire you. Just because I gave you some power, you don't have a reason to do what you have done these last 4 months. I am not dealing with a union drive-in stores because you are willing to let them get blown up. We're not in America where rules can be fast and loose, so stop LARPing like we are and do as you are told. And before she could say a word, he hung up. Yep, this man of constant calm literally just called to yell at her so loud that it could be heard over a kitchen that was in the midst of closing down, regular madness, and about 5 foot of air. Suffice to say, she looked at me with a scowl before unlocking the door. The police officer marched her outside, and later on, it was decided by someone that she could be let go with a warning from the shopping center that she was banned for the next 3 months. Yep, she got a temporary ban in a shopping center that she had a restaurant to run in. We cleared up pretty quick afterwards, and once we did clear up, it was a matter of scattering. Aftermath. True to his word, King Robert did suspend Cersei and use the time to hire additional staff. Cersei received a written warning as well, alongside being made to go through empathy courses and management courses, along with workplace health and safety courses. The police, I think, pressed a minor charge as a warning, and instead of jail, she pleaded out fast and argued that the stress of the job made her do it, earning her 90 days community service. Did Cersei become more humble after? Nope. Pretty sure she just became more bitter. Did she ever get fired in the time she was working with me? Nope. Still there now? Is this the worst thing she ever did to staff? Not even close. But it was the closest she ever got to being fired for sure, based on the fact it was what they could prove. Did I ever get a promotion? Nope. But I was fine handing the reins of the place over to competent management nevertheless. Less paperwork. Morale of the story. If you have a company hack that will try and endanger your safety or your life whilst fleeing, go over their head and get out of the situation. It doesn't matter who you are if your employer tells you that your life is to be sacrificed so they can flee, and you don't work for the military or intelligence services and tell them to pounce sand because you are not disposable, even if they should be. Thanks for joining us. If you enjoyed the video, don't forget to hit the like button and subscribe for more captivating stories. Share your own experiences, opinions in the comments below, and let's keep the conversation going. Until next time, stay tuned for more epic tales.